Hello everyone, I'm Austin Petersen, former presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. Congratulations to Donald Trump and his supporters. Donald Trump will now be the next president of the United States. I'm very excited for the future because, as you know, having sought the presidency for the last year, I fought very hard for the principles that I believe in, the things that I care about. But having fought for the White House myself and having gone through quite a ringer, I can tell you just how glad I am that this is all over. As a matter of fact, to me, it didn't quite matter who won on the left or the right. Just at some point, we all just needed this long national nightmare to come to an end. And I think I can say cheers. I think everyone can say cheers to that, my friends. But as you know, quite a few things to talk about, and I have a lot of thoughts on my mind, but I don't want to go on and on and on tonight. I do want to cover some important topics. I want to talk about why I think Donald Trump won. I want to talk about the things that he plans to do. I want to talk about some of the reactions, and I also want to talk about the Electoral College. This is a lot to squeeze into a little time, so bear with me tonight if I kind of speed through some of these topics. The first thing, why do I think Donald Trump won? And I posted this on my Facebook last night, and it got over 2,600 shares, which is pretty amazing. That's a viral post by any measure. But I said that a Trump victory just goes to show how much Americans hate being told what to do. His win, I think, is laid directly at the feet of the media establishment, the sneering, snotty coastal elites, and all of the social justice warriors whose bigotry against rural America caused small-town USA to rise up and say enough. Yesterday at my polling location, I'm registered to vote in a a rural area, and there was a line, a 3-hour-long line, and I've voted at this location for years, and I have never seen that many people showing up to vote. So clearly there was a silent, pissed off majority of people out there who are absolutely sick and tired of the social justice warriors, the social democrats, the liberals and the leftists. They're tired of being called racists. They're tired of being called bigots. They're tired of being called xenophobes. They're tired of being called homophobes. And they said that they had enough. And that's really what this election was. This election was a referendum on the cult of political correctness. Because despite all of the horrible things that Donald Trump said, people were willing to put that aside because they were so tired of being beaten down by the left. And that's really what it was that put Donald Trump in the White House. I believe it. They didn't care about his remarks on women. Or maybe they did care because, you know, a lot of women actually did vote for Trump. A lot of minorities voted for Trump. Now, they're trying to claim that this was some kind of white rebellion or something like that. But that's not what the polls show. The demographics show that there were minorities that were just as angry about the treatment of the Democrats. And it's just as much, I think, a referendum on Barack Obama. Of course, you remember the news came out recently that Obamacare premiums would be increasing by at least a third next year. So if that news hadn't come out, this might be a totally different game. But people are suffering. The middle class are suffering. I'm suffering because of the healthcare system in the United States. My plan was canceled. My premiums tripled. My health insurance deductible went from $1,500 to $5,000. This is just not affordable. People want this healthcare law to be gone. And I was actually heartened to see today that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stated that Obamacare will be gone in the first 90 days. I applaud them for that. I hope it happens. Of course, the Democrats will try and filibuster it, and there isn't a supermajority for them to try and stop it. But hopefully we will see some reforms in our healthcare system towards a more free market plan. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump's plan for reform that he's proposed. I'll be pulling this from NPR. But one of the things that really bothered me last night was that a hashtag rose up, hashtag not my president. Now, as someone who has been on a lot of losing campaigns, I've run a campaign for president of the United States and I've lost, and I graciously conceded to my opponent. I know a thing or two about losing. And so I think that it's important for you to be gracious in defeat. And that's why, number one, it chafed me to see so many people claiming that they would not accept the results of this election, which is amazing because they were chastising Donald Trump for the same thing. I mean, you can't be a hypocrite on this one. You can't then say, well, we hold ourselves to high standards and we believe in democracy, and then say, oh, well, he's not my president. But then when you talk about the word democracy, you might, a lot of people then turned around and said, well, we have an electoral college, and we don't like this because the popular vote went to Hillary Clinton and the electoral college went to Donald Trump. But that's a good thing. And let me tell you why. Because most people, from an instinctual level, or at least from probably what you learned in your indoctrination centers growing up, most people think that more democracy is a good thing. And they think that these old racist white males who set up our system were just trying to keep the people down. There is a grain of truth to that, but there's also quite a bit of lies, because the founding fathers were absolutely brilliant in how they set up our system with an electoral college, because they knew that, of course, at the time, most people couldn't get information about elections, and so they weren't able to make good decisions about what they could do at the ballot box. But here we are in the modern era, everyone says, well, we have the internet, people can get more information. Shouldn't we have more direct democracy? No. And here's why. Because most people still are not doing their research or their homework. If you watch any late night television, which I'm sure the people who are the low information voters do, then you'll see that most people don't have a basic understanding of our constitutional processes. Most people go out, and a lot of people say, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't vote. Some people will say, if you're not an informed voter, don't go vote, because your uninformed vote cancels out my informed vote. I am an awake and aware and enlightened citizen. I'm a participant in this democracy. So I do feel offended sometimes that people who have no understanding of economics or politics or sociology, they go out and they vote simply because they have feelings. And that is not a good way for us to elect our commander-in-chief. Of course, you don't elect the commander-in-chief, you elect an elector. An elector is who decides who the president of the United States will be. See, people will say, oh, well, we didn't get to vote for the president. Well, yes, you got to vote for an elector who has been chosen by that presidential candidate to represent them in the state. So you're voting for an elector who has been chosen by your presidential candidate. Now, the reason why the Electoral College is a good thing is because if we went by total population, 6 states would decide who the next president of the United States would be, and it wouldn't matter what people like myself in Missouri or Kansas or in Iowa or Nebraska, it wouldn't matter what we thought, because California, Texas, Florida, New York, Virginia, Maryland, these states would decide who the president would be, and we would have no say. So the Electoral College is a good way for us to have a little bit more of an apportionment in terms of how we select who our president of the United States will be. And this is a good thing, because the whole point of the electoral system is to make it so that the people who only come out and vote at once every 4 years, don't get as much of a say as people like myself who fight for a cause every single day. I am rewarded because I show up to county meetings, I organize with political parties, I support candidates, and because I put my name down on electoral lists, and because I even run for office. Someone like myself deserves to have more of a say, because I show up more than once every single 4 years. And that's how it should be. This is a participatory democracy. It is a representative republic, not a pure democracy. It is a representative republic. And that is important, because again, people who are guided by their passions only, merely their passions in politics, and certainly I'm a very passionate person, and I know a lot of other people are, but I'm not solely guided by passion. I'm passionate because I've gone out and done the research, done the homework, and found out what I believe using logic, reason, tried to avoid logical fallacies like confirmation biases, natural fallacies, post hoc ergo propter hoc, all of these types of fallacies. I try and get them out of my way of thinking, so that when I go into the ballot box or when I support a candidate, I don't do it for just political expediency, or I don't try and vote against someone. I try and vote for what I believe in. And that's how it should be. And that's how people should be rewarded. And that's why we have an electoral college. And in conceding defeat in my candidate, Gary Johnson, not winning the president of the United States, I accept that Donald Trump will become the next president of the United States. I did not support him. I fought very hard against him. I see a lot of problems with his potential presidency. I see a lot of problems with some of his supporters, but that doesn't matter because now he is the president-elect, and we should wait and see to see how he will behave, how will he perform. And I've taken a look at his platform. It looks good on first blush. If you see what Donald Trump is proposing, I'm going to read to you some of these platform planks. I'm optimistic. Of course, you know that as soon as the new president is elected, the partisanship will endure and Democrats will try and block much of this agenda, and he probably won't get a lot of this passed. But this is, I think, a very good first step in the direction of our country. And I hope that he puts aside a lot of his bluster and talk about prosecuting women who have accused him of sexual assault. All of that stuff needs to go by the wayside, unless he's actually guilty, in which case we do have a problem. But if he's planning on persecuting many of these women, I think he needs to just let it go. He's got bigger problems to worry about. The first thing that he's proposed is a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. Amen. That's a good thing. And some people say, well, even libertarians disagree on this issue. They say, well, that's what elections are for. You know, we should be able to decide who our electoral representatives are, and saying that we can't do that by law is limiting my choices. Well, that's true. But we also do that to the President of the United States, and we do it for a good reason, so that people will stay in Washington too long and become corrupted by power. And I think that term limits would be a good thing. So I hope that this happens. I don't think Congress will pass it because they don't want to limit their own power. They would do it for the president, of course. They pass term limits on the president, but I don't see them passing term limits on themselves, but this is a good first step. Second, hiring freeze on all federal employees to reduce federal workforce through attrition, exempting military, public safety, and public health. Great idea. We have way too many Washington bureaucrats and DC insiders, people who are at the teat of big government, and it's time that they get off the dole. So I hope that this is another good thing, a hiring freeze on all new federal employees. Absolutely. Good luck to you, President-elect Trump, on this issue. Third, a requirement that for every new federal regulation, 2 existing regulations must be eliminated. Terrific. Fantastic. Exactly the kind of thing that this libertarian wants to hear, and I hope that that passes as well. Fourth, a 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials becoming lobbyists after they leave government service. Trump is trying to end the revolving door here. Did you know that the woman who wrote Obamacare actually went and lobbied on behalf of the pharmaceutical industries? I mean, this is the kind of corruption that we want to avoid because nobody is happy with Obamacare. Some people say, oh, well, I have Obamacare. Yeah, but your premiums are going up, your deductibles are going up as well. Anyone who's telling you that they're just happy with their Obamacare is probably not telling the truth, or they might have an agenda. And I hate to be that way, but I just think that it's a good thing for us to have a little bit of space and time between people working in government and then going and working and lobbying in order to get federal dollars. Fifth, a lifetime ban on White House officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. I'm not quite sure what the implications of that would be, and I'm not quite sure if he's mentioning anything specific there. It sounds good, but of course a lot of things with government proposals sound good, but they don't quite work out from paper to planning. So I'll be interested to see exactly how this one might work out. He says he will take the following 7 actions to protect American workers. First, renegotiate NAFTA or withdraw from the deal. A little bit nervous about that one. I think, honestly, NAFTA has been a net benefit to the United States. People who complain about the loss of jobs tend to be the type of people who are protectionists. And so while NAFTA isn't a perfect free trade deal, it did improve the economy in certain ways, and I do believe in free trade. A lot of like the Ron Paul supporters and things like that, they're very skeptical about deals like this because they fear a loss of sovereignty, whatever that is. The truth is that a state, a government, a nation is not sovereign, technically, right? An individual is sovereign, but a state, a government can never be sovereign. Why? Because like Saudi Arabia, for example, is a sovereign kingdom. Well, they've helped finance 9/11. So I don't care about their sovereignty. In some sense, we should, just like they passed for the 9/11 victims' families, allowing them to sue them, they wanted sovereign immunity from being sued. No, you don't get sovereign immunity. Only an individual, in some sense, in a sense, is sovereign. And even still, the concept doesn't really mean much. It's sovereign, in fact, implies a king. So it's not quite a libertarian concept. So I'm a little nervous about renegotiating or withdrawing from NAFTA because I don't want to see us build up walls. And I don't want Donald Trump's wall either. He says he will announce his withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good idea. Of course, I haven't read the entire trade deal. I tried to do so on the campaign, but it's quite long. And so the idea of negotiating a Trans-Pacific Partnership in general was the idea that we were going to announce trade deals that wouldn't involve China. And Donald Trump didn't know that, actually. Rand Paul schooled him in the Republican presidential debates because Donald Trump said that this is bad with China, right? But China was not included in the debate. Rand knew that because he was actually a senator and part of the negotiations on this trade deal. So I'm not sure how I feel about this, but it seems like the kind of sort of the anti-free trade rhetoric that we've heard from Donald, which I definitely do not support. He says he will he will direct the Secretary of the Treasury to label China a currency manipulator. Now, this is the kind of bellicose rhetoric that I really don't want to see in my new commander-in-chief. Now, I saw that President Vladimir Putin today issued a congratulatory message to President Trump. We all know that he wanted Trump to win. He didn't like Secretary Hillary Clinton. Who would? Other than half of the country that voted for her last night, of course. But I don't like this kind of bellicose rhetoric. You know, even if they are, you have to be very careful. And one of the things that I learned in my run for the White House is sometimes that you have to be very careful about what you say, even if you feel it. And sometimes you're wrong. Like, for example, one of my now good friends is someone who I was running against. His name is Steve Kerbell from Colorado. How you doing, Steve, if you're watching? But I said some mean things about Steve Kerbell, and I later regretted it, and I should have held my tongue, and I should have been less bellicose. Yes, we were in a contest. Yes, we were competing against each other. Yes, we had to say tough things. But I regret some of the mean things that I said about Steve, and so I wish that I hadn't said them, and I apologize. So if you're out there, Steve Kerbell, I'll see you in Colorado this weekend, hopefully, and Karen Harless as well. All my friends in Colorado, I'm coming to see you this weekend, just so you know. Gonna go climb mountains. Maybe then I can win the nomination of for the Libertarian Party. I'll go climb a mountain and send picture evidence, and that'll be enough to get me in. Sorry, guys, I'm just so tired. It has been such a long year, and I don't want to go on for much longer. He says that he wants to direct the Secretary of Commerce and U.S. trade representatives to identify all foreign trade abuses that unfairly impact American workers and direct them to use every tool under American international law to end those abuses immediately. Foreign trading abuses, I don't think Donald Trump knows what foreign trade abuses are. He's going to have somebody explain that to him before he starts enacting this one. This is probably the kind of thing that's going to get swept under the rug. He says he will lift the restrictions on the production of $50 trillion worth of job-producing American energy reserves, including shale, oil, natural gas, and clean coal. Thank you, Donald Trump. Please get that done. We need to have more developing of our domestic energy production. And that's a good thing for us because that means good paying jobs at home. It means that, and it's a national security issue. Energy is a national security issue. Because we saw in the 70s with OPEC, for example, when they want to cut off the supply of oil, our enemies overseas want to cut off the supply of oil, that harms the American economy, that harms our security. And so I think it's important for us to have domestic energy production. So I'm really glad to hear that Donald Trump is on my side on this issue. He says, like the Obama-Clinton roadblocks, he wants to lift the Obama-Clinton roadblocks, allow vital energy infrastructure projects like the Keystone Pipeline to move forward. Well, that depends. Libertarians tend to be a little divided on that. You know, of course, if things are taken by eminent domain, that's something that we tend to not support because Keystone is a private corporation getting private profit. Also, that oil in the Keystone Pipeline is not being sold in the United States. That oil is being piped off and shipped to other countries. So it's a problem because it is. You can't argue that this is even for public good under the takings clause of the Commerce Clause, the Fifth Amendment. Excuse me, under the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment. Excuse me, not the Commerce Clause. Pardon me. But the Keystone Pipeline is a project that doesn't necessarily directly benefit the citizens of the United States, only very temporarily for the building of that pipeline. Generally, I'm very pro-capitalist, but I do believe in private property. So, and especially if you're going to take something by eminent domain, the specific application of it is to be for public use only, not for private use. And every corporation will argue that whatever the thing is, oh, it benefits the public, it benefits the public. No, it benefits you and your own private coffers. So we need to make sure we have a very strict definition of what is public use and what is private use when we use things like eminent domain. He says that he will take the following 5 actions to restore. I missed the cancel billions of payments to UN climate change programs. Use the money to fix America's water and environmental infrastructure. Well, maybe you could just pass it back to us in the form of tax cuts, Donald. In terms of water and environmental infrastructure, privatize it. Privatize it. Privatize the water. Privatize it. Privatize it all. Sell the bridges. Sell the roads. Privatize it all. Just send the money back to us in the form of a tax break. I'm sick and tired of us saying, oh, we're going to take the money from here and we're going to put it into another federal program. No, just cut the budget. Just give it back to us in the form of a tax break, okay? That's all I want. I just want my money back, okay? Yeah, and absolutely take it away from these climate change programs. The government is not going to be able to solve global warming. It's just not, okay? The government creates more global warming than it could possibly ever solve. The U.S. government is the #1 polluter on the planet. So, yeah, cut the billions. But don't go and blow it on some publicly regulated utility. Privatize utility and give the money back to us in the form of a tax break. Hardcore. Cancel every unconstitutional executive action, memorandum, and order issued by President Obama. This is just a sort of blustering tactic. I don't think President Trump is going to be wanting to give away any kind of power, especially if he thinks he can use it. Select a replacement for Scalia from one of the 20 judges on his list who will uphold the Constitution of the United States. Very good, but the only problem is, Mr. Trump, is we don't see Judge Andrew Napolitano on your list. So what about it, Judge Knapp? Are you going to be on the list? I'd like to see Andrew Napolitano on the Supreme Court. What about you? We need to maybe start a movement for something like that. Maybe we can convince our new president-elect that we need a much more closer to Scalia's interpretation of the Constitution. So yeah, moving on. Cancel all federal funding to sanctuary cities. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I mean, you guys know how I feel about immigration and open borders. Federal funding to sanctuary cities, I mean, yeah, cancel all federal funding. But not because they're sanctuary cities. Cancel federal funding because you never had the right to take the money from us in the first place because, as we know, make taxation theft again. Begin removing 2 million criminal illegal immigrants from the country and cancel visas to foreign countries that won't take them back. It's a little belligerent, but on the latter end of that, but the former of that, I would say, yeah, absolutely. If you are a criminal illegal immigrant in the United States, then I do believe that it is within the role of the federal government to send you home. Someone who's a violent criminal is, to me, someone who does deserve to be deported. But for the 9 to 10 million who are not criminals, then I'm very worried about their safety and their future here with their families in the United States. These people work hard, they contribute to the economy, they pay taxes, they absolutely do, and they pay more in taxes than they get in welfare. You may not like that, Trumpsters, but that is just the truth. Free movement of peoples is not only a right of all humans, but I think, especially if you're not committing a crime. Here's the thing, you're not going to like this, but illegal immigration is a victimless crime, right? Taking welfare is not a crime per se. Falsifying it, fraudulently taking it, is a crime. But just because an immigrant takes welfare, I don't think they deserve it any more than my other countrymen. We don't need to have welfare, so I'm sick and tired of it. And I don't like the idea that we scapegoat immigrants. So I'm pro-immigrant, but I'm definitely for the deportation of violent criminals, people who have actually committed crimes against other people, against other places or their private property. Suspend immigration from terror-prone regions where vetting cannot safely occur. All vetting of people coming into our country will be considered extreme vetting. I don't know how we will enforce that without creating something of a police state. So without going into too much detail, I would say that this is the kind of thing that makes me a little bit nervous. And he goes on, there's quite a bit more. We'll have plenty of time to break down what Donald Trump is going to do. Because again, this is what he says. What he does might be a completely different matter. But of course, I'd like to finish here to talk about the future of people who are watching this show, the people who are libertarians, the liberty movement, people who care about these issues. Obviously we're all disappointed in what happened for the Libertarian Party. A lot of people are saying that 3%, oh, it's historic, it's more than any Libertarian Party candidate has ever gotten. Well, yes, of course, but Jill Stein tripled her vote total and got more votes this time by percentage than Gary got this time. So I think that we have a problem because I think that the libertarian movement lost a great opportunity. Both of these candidates were so widely despised. If the Libertarian Party had been able to offer what seemed like a real alternative that spoke to these Trump voters, but could also bring in the left, then we might have had a much better chance at getting the 5% that would qualify us for federal funding. It doesn't mean that I think we need to take the federal funding. The jury's still out on that one. I'd like to decide, but I wanted whoever the Libertarian Party candidate was going to be in 2020 I wanted them to have that opportunity. I wanted them to be able to make that choice. And I don't know if that would be me, right? I don't know if that's going to be me in 4 years, because anything can happen. There's a lot of good people whose names have been floated who said they might run. Larry Sharp is one. And of course, now that Donald Trump has broken through the glass ceiling of needing government experience to be in government, of course, somebody like Larry Sharp could get elected. That could be a good thing. But if I feel like my country needs me, if I feel like it's the right time or the right opportunity and we're in trouble, then I might do it. But there may never be another opportunity again, like the opportunity that we had yesterday to effect change and to get the 5% that we needed to show real, true growth. Honestly, I believe that the 3% that we got yesterday was not because of our candidates. As a matter of fact, I think our candidates did everything they could to get people to vote for other candidates. I mean, I think that Bill Weld's strategy backfired to try and tell people that he was vouching for Hillary Clinton. I saw people say specifically that meant that they would not support the Johnson-Weld ticket, and they went and voted for Trump, specifically because they saw him as shilling for Hillary. So we probably lost a lot of votes on that one. Bad strategy. Bad strategy. And it just goes to show, when you sacrifice principle for electability, you lose both. Thank you very much for watching my live stream tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm always grateful for your feedback and your input. Do me a favor, send me a message or on my Facebook page or on Twitter. You can find me at AP for LP. If you guys want, you can get these at threadsofliberty.com, the AP collection. You can get my Make Taxation Theft Again hat. And I know you guys don't want me to leave. You guys get sad, but it's been 30 minutes, and it's been such a long year, guys. I deserve a little bit of time off. So I'm going to take a few days off, go to Colorado, have some fun with friends, and try and just forget this and get ready to move on. But I'll tell you what, no matter what, the revolution continues. I will continue to fight for the principles that I care about. I will continue to fight for the people that I believe in and the cause of limited government, economic freedom, and personal liberty. For now, Leif Bieberson, Liberty Champion, the Freedom Ninja, signing off.